Hi and welcome. I am going to walk you through something that you have probably never heard before, but I can assure you, you will completely change the way you look at selling a home. I'm going to share with you the 3 strategic shifts that will skyrocket your home sale price. And by the way, these are strategies that buyers don't want you to know. I'm going to share a story about 2 homes that were very similar. They were in the same neighborhood and listed at the exact same price. Yet one sold significantly under asking price and the other sold for significantly more. In this video, I'm going to show you why that happened and how it was possible. Whether you're selling your home right now or sometime in the future, stick with me through this short video and you'll be ahead of 99% of homeowners who are thinking about selling. You're going to learn some strategies for selling your home at the highest possible price that 99% of licensed real estate agents, they have no idea about. And these strategies that work time and time again, they even work in the toughest markets. What we've found after analyzing thousands of home sales is that a proactive strategy is really the single biggest factor in determining your final sales price. And this isn't about luck, it's about control. The traditional approach of putting the home on the MLS, running some ads, hoping for the best, maybe is one of the fastest ways to leave thousands of dollars on the table. So why in the world am I sharing these strategies with you before we even decide if working together makes sense? The goal is simple: to give you a real, behind-the-scenes look at how a strategic approach to positioning can truly help homes sell for the price sellers need or more, and why so many other homes fail to reach their full potential. I want to make this clear. It's purely educational. Whether you're thinking of selling now or in years from now, you'll have the knowledge to make informed decisions and to choose the right professional to help you execute these strategies. And if you stick with me until the end of the video, I have a special gift for you. Let's start with something simple and then we'll build into something more advanced. As we know, the driver of home prices is supply and demand, and this part is really simple. When supply is low and demand is high, prices go up. When supply is high and demand is low, prices come down. This is the fundamental driver behind every single sale. Here's the real question. How do we create a situation where your home has more demand than supply, regardless of what's happening in the market? Which brings me to strategic shift number 1, price bracketing. I'd like to introduce you to Brian and Lisa. They're buyers approved to purchase a home of up to $850,000. When Brian and Lisa search for homes, they go to their favorite real estate website and search in whole numbers. You probably do the same thing. And for example, buyers approved up to $850,000 typically search between $750,000 and $850,000. And this is really common. In fact, it's probably how you search for homes too. And what I want to tell you also is what buyers usually don't do is they don't search in odd numbers. They don't choose random price ranges, and most real estate portals don't even allow it. Why? Because it's not logical. This is the mistake that most agents and homeowners make when selling their home. They list the property with that famous 9999 at the end. And in Jill's case, for example, let's say her home is listed at $749,999. And you see this all the time. This, I tell you, is a massive mistake, and here's why. Jill is looking for a $750,000 buyer. But as we just talked about, buyers search in whole numbers. So if buyers are searching between $750,000 and $850,000, a home priced at $749,999, it doesn't even appear in their search. And in other words, those buyers don't even know that this home exists. It's not because the home isn't good, but because the agent and the homeowner didn't know how buyers actually search. So, what should Jill do? The solution is really simple. List the home directly on a price bracket. If Jill changes the price from $749,999 to $750,000, here's what happens. By changing the price by just $1, Jill instantly doubles the amount of buyer exposure. Her home is now appearing in both the $700,000 to $750,000 search and the $750,000 to $800,000 search. She becomes the best quality home in the lower bracket and then the best value in that higher bracket. And we know what happens when demand increases and supply stays the same. The value will go up. Now that we understand price bracketing, the next mistake agents and sellers make is failing to properly position the home in the marketplace. This brings us to strategic shift number 2, positioning. Let's take a look at a simple example. Suppose the home is valued at $735,000. The first step is to run an active demand analysis. This will mean identifying where buyers are actually shopping right now. And if a home is worth around $735,000, buyers are likely searching between $700,000 and $800,000. So we would analyze the showing activity across that entire range. Now, after using the market data, we identify how many showings occurred between 700 and 800,000. This tells us where buyer demand exists. Then we're going to break that range into smaller $25,000 brackets, which mirrors how buyers will search online. Now, in this example, we find that the $750,000 to $775,000 range, that actually has the highest demand, accounting for 39% of buyers. The next highest demand comes from the $725,000 to $750,000 range. So what does this tell us? That's what we're about to break down right now. So if that's what demand looks like, the next thing we have to look at is supply. And what we're trying to figure out is where we should position the property so it actually becomes the obvious choice. When we looked at the showing activity, we saw that the $750,000 to $775,000 range, that actually had the highest demand. The next question then becomes, where is the lowest supply? And if we look at the overall price range between $700,000 and $800,000, we can see the total number of homes for sale. But when we break that down into smaller price brackets, something interesting shows up. The $750,000 to $775,000 range not only has the highest demand, it also has the lowest number of active homes. In other words, the same price bracket with the most buyer activity also has the least competition. So based on the demand and supply analysis, here's the positioning decision. Even though the home is valued at $735,000, we're going to list it at $750,000. Now, why would we do that? This goes back to price bracketing from strategic shift number 1. By listing at exactly $750,000, we're positioning the home at the bridge between two buyer pools. We now can capture buyers searching from $725,000 to $750,000 and buyers searching from $750,000 to $775,000. Combined, that represents about 64% of all active buyers in the market. And here's the key part. The $750,000 to $775,000 bracket, that actually has the highest demand at 39% of all buyers, but the lowest supply with only 3 competing homes. And on top of that, the $725,000 to $750,000 bracket accounts for another 25% of buyer demand. So by strategically pricing the home at 750 instead of 735,000 or 749,999, we maximize exposure, we minimize competition, and create the ideal conditions for multiple offers. This is the exact type of analysis that should be done on every property before it ever hits the market. Now, the next step is figuring out how we make sure your home stands out in that specific price bracket and becomes what we call the obvious choice. This is when buyers are drawn to your home instead of the others, and it creates urgency so they feel the need to see it right away and make an offer before it's gone. In the third strategic shift, we're going to talk about how to outsmart the competition. So first we have to understand how buyers actually make decisions when they write an offer. And not just any offer, but the highest and most likely offer that you as the seller would accept. That comes down to how we strategically position the property in the market. And the first factor we have to look at is time. Here's a quick breakdown of how this works. We know that homes that sell faster tend to net more money. The opposite is also true. Homes that sit on the market for a longer period of time on average, those end up selling for less. For example, if a home is listed at $750,000 and it sells on the first day, it will often sell for over the asking price. And a home that sells in 30 days will usually sell for less, and in many cases, may not even get the asking price. Now, if you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, this makes a whole lot of sense. Imagine walking into a home on the very first day it hits the market. You've fallen in love with it and you decide you want that home. What kind of offer would you need to write for the seller to accept an offer on day one? It would probably have to be extremely strong. Now look at the opposite scenario. If the average home on the market sells in about 14 days, but you walk into a property that's been on the market for 2.5 to 3 months maybe, and you want that home, how might your offer look then? You'd likely feel you have much more negotiating power. That's only natural, but it's true. And that's why the goal is to be the seller, where buyers are competing for your home, not the seller competing for a buyer. So let's talk about how we actually make that happen. What you're looking at here is how buyers actually compare homes. So when a buyer is looking at your home versus a competing home, they're making a mental calculation. This matrix shows the likelihood that they'll write an offer on your home based on how the two compare. For example, if your home has more features and is priced higher than the competition, the chances of you getting an offer, it's pretty low. This is typically what you see in today's market. However, if your home has more features and is priced more competitively than the competition, you have a very high chance of getting an offer. Actually, you become the obvious choice. Now, let's flip the script and let's say your home has less features than the competition and you priced it higher or even the same. The chance of an offer basically disappears. Buyers will simply just choose the other home because you helped it stand out and they became the obvious choice. This is the psychology behind how buyers make decisions. What we're going to do next is show you this in action so you can see how it works. So let's look at a real active competition analysis. And let's pretend there are 3 active properties that you might compete with in that $725,000 to $775,000 sweet spot. Let's look at this first competing home on 123 Bird Street. It's priced at $775,000 and it's been on the market for 67 days in a market where homes are selling in about 14 days on average. Right away, that tells us this home has been sitting nearly 5 times longer than most other properties. Now, let's pretend this home does have more features and benefits than yours. And that's something that we can both agree on. We went and we saw it, we walked through it together, and we both said, yes, this home clearly offers more than ours does. Because of that, it wouldn't make any sense for us to enter the market at a higher price if a home with more features is already listed at $775. But here's the key point. This home has been sitting for 67 days. The market has already told us something super important. Buyers are saying even that price is too high. So we can't compete at $775,000. If we want buyers to choose your home, we need to be priced much more competitively. Now, let's look at the next active listing on 123 Main Street. It's priced at $750,000 and it just hit the market. It's only been on for 2 days, so it's fresh and it's positioned well. This home, however, it has fewer features and benefits than yours. And because of that, could we justify a higher price? Absolutely. Could we justify the same price? Absolutely. And if we're priced the same while offering more features and benefits, that's where we really stand out. We immediately become the obvious choice. And this is how you attract multiple buyers to the same property, which is what ultimately drives that price up. And lastly, let's look at the home on 567 Liz Lane. It's priced at $765,000 and it's been on the market for 45 days, which is more than 3 times the market average. This home has essentially the same features and benefits as yours. And when a home with similar features sits for 45 days, the market is telling us something very clearly. Buyers feel that the price is too high. And here's the critical insight. If we priced your home at $765,000, the same way they did, we'll likely sit on the market just like they are and risk becoming stale. To win those buyers, we need to be priced more competitively so your home is seen as a better value and becomes the obvious choice. So the winning strategy becomes clear. We offer better value than Bird Street, more features than Axe Street, and a fresher opportunity than Liz Lane. By positioning your home intelligently against the competition, we make it the most logical choice for serious buyers. So here's the end result. Let's go back to Jill, the homeowner. Her home had a market value of $735,000. After walking through all 3 strategic shifts we just talked about, she positioned her home in the market at $750,000. Because of that strategy, within the first 3 days on the market, she had 13 showings and received 3 offers. And here's what we know to be true. When multiple buyers are competing for one home, supply and demand take over. Now there's only one home, and now 3 different families want it. So when demand exceeds supply, the price goes up. Brian and Lisa were one of those buyers. They were approved up to $850,000. They ultimately wrote the offer that won the home, and that was based on the features and benefits, the pricing strategy, and how the home was positioned in the market. They purchased the home for $767,000. Jill is happy, Brian and Lisa are happy, and this is the result of applying these strategies step by step the right way. So remember at the beginning when I mentioned 2 identical homes in the same neighborhood that ended up with completely different results? Now you can see exactly why that happened. So let's recap what we just learned. First, we talked about how buyers actually search for homes and how you can instantly double the amount of buyer exposure your home gets. That's how we attract more buyers, which creates competition for your property. Second, we talked about positioning, where to place your home on the market so that regardless of market conditions or interest rates, You consistently have more buyer demand than the competition. That's what ultimately drives the price of your home up. And lastly, we talked about outsmarting the competition. This is how we make your home stand out as the obvious choice to buyers, so multiple buyers begin competing with one another for your home. The result is a higher sales price, better terms for you, and pulling buyers away from competing listings, which is exactly and actually very fun to do. So, what's next? Well, as promised, if you've made it this far, I have something special for you. And regardless if you're ready to sell now or sometime in the future, I'd like to provide you with what we call a strategic positioning analysis. This analysis will show you a few important things. First, it will outline a detailed pricing strategy designed to maximize the sale price of your home. Second, it includes a custom supply and demand audit. I'll analyze the entire marketplace and show you exactly where buyer demand and competition line up for your price range. Third, we'll go through an active competition analysis. We'll look at the homes you would be competing with right now and identify what needs to happen for your home to stand out as the better option. And lastly, you'll receive a net profit breakdown. I'll walk you through all the numbers so as you plan your move, you have a clear picture of how much money you'll walk away with after the sale. And here's the best part, there's no sales pitch or pressure. You can use this information now or keep it in your back pocket for when the timing makes sense. The choice is completely yours. So the next step is really simple. If you would like your own strategic positioning analysis, simply let me know. There's no cost, no obligation, just valuable insight that could put thousands more dollars in your pocket. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to helping you sell smarter.